Hello, I'm Emma and I'm standing in for Sam tonight. Welcome to 25 Tuesdays with Way, celebrating Widow and Young's 25th anniversary. We're speaking to lots of different people. It's been in various sections. So Kate has already done a section on the faces behind Way, and we spoke to some fabulous people who support Way, some volunteers, the people who work in the background, and Sam's currently doing books and blogs as this section. So over the last few weeks, Sam has spoken to Way members who've written to help them cope with their bereavement. Sam recently spoke with a Sunday Times bestseller, author Lucy Brownlee, and today I've got the huge privilege of talking to actress and life coach Holly Matthews. Her husband Ross died of brain cancer in 2017. Holly was just 32 at the time, and her two daughters were only 6 and 4 years old. Holly then launched her flagship brand, the Happy Me Project, in 2017, just months after the death of her husband. And she's in the process of publishing a book, which comes out next month, called the Happy Me Project. It's being published with Bloomsbury Publishing, who are publishers of the Harry Potter books. And I'm going to try and get Holly to join the conversation now.
Hello. Hey, lovely soul. We worked the technology out. Perfect. That's always the hardest part.
Definitely, it absolutely is. Thank you so much for joining us, Holly. It is so lovely to speak to you, and we didn't even mention your acting career, so apologies, that wasn't in my script.
That's all right, it doesn't matter. It's a bit of the stuff. As we know, we're not one thing, and it's part of the story, but not all of the story, as is most of the stuff that we'll probably talk about.
Yeah, so I was wondering if you could take us right back to the beginning and tell us a little bit about how you and Ross first met and a little bit about what he was like, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. So firstly, Ross was, he self-described himself as one of a kind. And he would say, I'm one of a kind. And I would say, you can't describe yourself as one of a kind. That's really for other people to say, like, you can't do that. But I think that in itself actually sums up who Ross was. Ross was a really eccentric character. And anybody who met Ross genuinely, I know people kind of say this when people die, they like big them up. But when people talk about Ross, they always have a funny story where he did something a little bit off the wall, where they're like, oh yeah, he rang me once and like he did this weird thing. So Ross was a very eccentric character. He was on the autistic spectrum as well, so that gave him a very black and white sort of nature in terms of everything. And when I met him, we were doing a job for Pims, which me as an actress, outside of acting, I would do all kinds of stuff. I would do promotional modeling. I was always selling something. I was always doing something. I was always doing something outside of acting, because even though I was very lucky in that I had great acting jobs, it's contract work. So between that, I always had to do something else. And on this particular job, Ross and I were both what is called we were paid reserves. Essentially, we were being paid to sit on our backsides at home and do nothing. Brilliant times, everybody's thinking. That's what we were thinking. We didn't know each other, right? So I'm in Essex. I was living in Essex at the time. He's in Coventry. And we both get this call, you've got to come and work. Okay, we were being paid more, but you want to sit on your backside rather than, actually do the work. So we're probably both separately in our homes grumbling that we've actually got to do some work, boo-hoo us. And we met on that job, and we happened to end up on a break together, and we just all sat there, and we just had like the craziest connection. And if anybody had ever said this to me before, I would have been like, it's a bit embarrassing, like that's a bit cringe. No, you didn't. Did you really? But we genuinely met and were so connected. And I don't know if it's the actor in me a little bit as well. He, with his eccentric personality, probably a lot of women that he met would have been mortified by his behavior. Whereas me as an actor with zero embarrassment factor was a little bit more like, keep going, that's funny, and enjoyed it. And the next day after meeting him, And I have to say, I'm going to just, you know, be very honest with you guys. I was with somebody at the time. It was an ended relationship, we'll be honest, but I was with someone. I met Ross, and there was such a connection. I went back to my house, broke up with that boyfriend, got on the mega bus, because I didn't drive, to Coventry, and pretty much didn't come back. And that, from that moment, we barely left each other's side. People would call us Rolly, because we just knocked about together, and we bounced off each other so much. And that's how it was. Like when we met, it was, in fact, I remember him saying, this was how honest and open we were as a couple. I remember him saying, well, you know, you're here for a little bit. You know, you're here. Well, why don't I get his dad at a shop? He was like, why don't I get one of the rails from my dad's shop? You can stick some clothes on it, and if we just get sick of each other and that, like, it's only a rail, isn't it? It's not serious. And we were like, yeah, that sounds a good idea. Let's not save each other's phone numbers or anything. Like, let's not try, you know, we'll just in case. And we were so honest about it all. And somehow, two lone wolves, independent human beings, managed to live together and just get on. And that's how it was from that point.
I love that story, and there's been so much love. The little heart at the bottom of my screen's been going crackers with that one. It's just so lush. And then you had, is it nearly 10 years together before he was sadly diagnosed with terminal brain cancer? Yeah,
so we had less time than that. So we had 10 years together in total before his death. Nearly 10 years, just under. His diagnosis, I actually don't know, don't ask me maths, but it was 2014, and my daughters would have been, Texas, I think, was just turning 1, and Brooke was just turning 3. Does that work out right? Probably. Yes, that works out right.
Sounds about right.
So yeah, there's 2 years between them. Yeah, so that works out right. So it was 2014 when he was diagnosed, and we had the kids. We'd lived a great life together in that small time, and we had Ross alive for 3.5 years with cancer. So somebody in here can do the maths on that one.
Yeah, that's really hard. And then was it in 2014 that he sadly died?
2017 he died.
2014
he had the diagnosis. So he was diagnosed with grade 4 brain cancer. It was rare. It was normally found in children. It was normally found at the back of the head. His was at the front of the head. So when he described himself as one of a kind, as I mentioned at the beginning, I was like, why in that area as well? I mean, you don't have to be one of a kind and have a rare brain cancer. That's taking it too far, to be honest, but it was. And so from the beginning, it was bad. Like we had not experienced people having cancer. We were lucky enough, quite frankly, that we hadn't. And Ross was 28 when he was diagnosed. We were 28, like we were young. We didn't have worries about death or cancer. We didn't have those worries in our mind. We had 2 young children. We were staring out into a future of new things and excitement. That diagnosis was such a shock to us. However, from the second of that diagnosis, we just dealt with it head on. And I know everybody is different in their processing. Both of us are very black and white in many respects in our nature. And I'm not scared of life, and Ross wasn't scared of life. And we just, from the beginning, looked the tiger in the eye. And that doesn't mean, please don't ever confuse me saying look the tiger in the eye with stoicism. We got upset, we were angry, we had all the normal human emotions, but we decided that we didn't have a choice. That's not something we could control. And so you've just frozen. Let me just stop. Oh, you're back. We had frozen.
Now I'm back here.
You're back. It's all good. So we just dealt with it very much head on. We dealt with it, full out. Like, let's just go for this. And at every stage, we just went, what's the next step? Okay, what's the next step? And sadly, there got to a point where there was no next step. And then at that stage, obviously with brain cancer, it's different to some of the other cancers in that you lose your person before you lose them. They're not there after a point, or you get moments of them which is way harder because you're watching parts of your person drift off and that was extremely hard. And I think in some ways it was harder for other people to watch on and not have an understanding of how I was dealing with it, because for a lot of people watching on, you know, with diagnosis, people live their lives between that, you getting that diagnosis. So to them, it's really quick, or, you know, they don't see it in the same way. You're living it and breathing it every day. So you are building a level of acceptance as you go. That's what I was doing anyway. I wasn't green-eyed enough. I wasn't foolish enough to, you know, be, you know, sat there thinking Ross is definitely going to beat this. That doesn't mean I wasn't hopeful. That doesn't mean we weren't trying. We did all the stuff that people try, and Ross was absolutely, you know, willing to do all of the stuff. He had 2 brain surgeries, and it was his choice to do that. You know, that's a big deal. Second time round, we knew it was prolonging. We knew it wasn't going to cure anything, and I had to sit and say to him, this is your choice. This bit is not my journey. That's for you to make that decision. Hardest conversation, because everything within me is going, please do it. Please do it. What if there's, you know, what if it does something? What if we get you longer? But there's almost that moment where you have to go, I can't force somebody down this route because they have to live this. And that's a scary prospect. And, you know, we just try to at every stage just deal with it as it came. And I think that's all you can do. And it's only really, you know, when I'm talking about it with you guys and when I'm talking about it on social media and stuff, when I kind of reflect back on that and go for, you know, you take a moment, and I'm sure loads of people listening will feel the same, where you go, how did we do that then? Because that was a lot of stuff. You know, even me saying to you about the age of the kids,
I know.
Now I'm like, how did we do that? I was a brat. They were babies. They were little babies. How did we do that? But we didn't know any different. That's what we knew.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And it sounds like you totally went into action stations and took each day as it comes. And for you, it was probably a far more gradual process than other people looking on who don't see you for weeks or months, and then suddenly there's a blip. I have a funny feeling that I might pause again one more time. I have I have a time limit on my Instagram, and I think I've nearly reached it for the day. So I've got to press the ignore it.
We'll deal with it.
Too much time on Instagram today.
Yeah, we will deal with it. We'll be fine. We'll chat. It's all good. We've got it.
Oh, you're a superstar. It's really bad timing though, because it's like the crux of your story. So I really hope it doesn't mess up. Anyway, so one of the things that is really amazing with Way is obviously people sharing their grief, but obviously for you, it was really public. You know, it was through your vlog and it was in the media. And so did that help you being so public with your grief? How did you cope with all of that?
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of knowing that Ross was actively dying, I was, you know, I had been an actress. I vlogged, I did stuff in the public eye, I had a social media platform, all of those things. So the beginning of it, there was this real conflict for me, because it's not just my story. Do you know, like I have family, I have children, I have his mom, his dad, our family, and it's not everybody's story. And it was a really delicate process for me, but I felt like I was trying to hide what was happening. And I'm just a human being that, like, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm all in, or it's nothing at all. Like, and I find that very hard. So there was this weird conflict of me going, this is happening, I need to speak it out. And actually my way of processing stuff is very much talk it out, and talk it in front of a camera, which is not everybody else will understand that. And I'm sure there was lots of people that watched me at the time that thought, what an oversharer, like there's too much, that's too much, it's attention seeking. For me, you have to understand the background and the context. I'm hoping you can still see me. You're back, all good. So what I was saying there is, you know, I grew up on television. I was 11 when I was on TV. I've got one as well. Oh, wow. For Christ's sake, I'm gonna do it. Oh, I'm back. Yay. We're all trying to be so good, so much, and that's what's happening. So what I was saying is, I was on TV as a kid, and because of that, my, you know, going to school and stuff was tough. Being on TV was my safe space. being in front of a camera, talking, whether it was acting or whatever, that was my safe space. It felt comfortable. And, you know, I'm sure a psychologist will have a field day with that. There's absolutely reason why that feels like a safe space to me. So in my darkest times, in the times when I feel challenged, that actually feels like a very cathartic experience to me. So for me, talking about it was helpful. And because of my acting, because of other stuff, because it was a human interest story, as it is, you know, he's a young man, and how we deal with stuff and how I deal with stuff is possibly not the norm necessarily, you know, like, and people don't necessarily see that version of grief and loss. So when I was talking about it, obviously it became that it was in the newspapers and it was across all of the national press, and it was a lot. And there was definitely a time when that felt quite overwhelming. But I think it was more the fact that suddenly, rather than me just dealing with it how I always would deal with it, I started to allow, oh, what does that look like, in just for a moment. By the way, it was not a long time of that, because I gave myself a firm talking to and was like, deal with your stuff, like, do not let anybody else's noise get in. The benefit of that, the benefit for everybody knowing, was that I for at least the first year, didn't have to tell anybody that Ross died. I didn't have to have that conversation. And those that are watching who had to do that, that's a lot. That's hard, because you're literally dropping an emotional time bomb in every room you go in. Every time somebody says, oh, how's Ross? If they didn't know, every time I've got to go, he's dead. That's crap. Like, what a horrible thing. And most people have to do that, you know, in their wider circles, whereas I didn't have to do that. Like, everywhere I went, and I shared with you, when Ross died, we had everything change all at once. So new school for the kids, new car, because he had a disability vehicle at the time, new car, new school, new home. And we went into that new school. My youngest starting school in September was like a month after her dad died. That's the first time she'd started school. We've bulled into that school. Everybody knows our business. Everybody knows what's going on. The teachers have got the look of a frightened lamb on their faces because I'm coming in, and they know. I know they've been on social media. I know that I know everyone's staring. I know that they know how I am. I know they've read the story. That was a lot that made me very much in, what's the word? It pushed me into this space of adrenaline, and almost my mask was initially just get stuff done, just focus, and that works for me, doesn't work for everybody. And it kept me in that space for that first year. But there was benefits to everybody knowing as well. And everybody was obviously absolutely lovely. Like, people were so generous and so kind. And certainly where I live now is in Coventry, and the people of Coventry particularly, you know, they scooped us up as a family, and they were massively gorgeous. And people on social media, you know, they would send the girls stuff, and they would send me messages, and the outpouring was huge. And there's something beautiful in that. Like, never stop doing that to people, because in your times of difficulty, you never know who needs that. And, you know, I actually reflected back on some of those people, you know, good, probably 2 years into grief, that I went back and really looked at who had sent messages and what people, and remembered, and then messaged them and said, you know, I really did I maybe didn't say because I was in the thick of it, but it really mattered in those initial stages. So that, yeah, so it was a lot of noise, but it had its pros and cons. You know, there was good in that as well.
Yes, amazing. It's really amazing. And the difference of being in the public eye and what that did. I mean, I can remember that within the circles that we moved, the news spread like wildfire. So I didn't have to do that he's died thing. But I do remember the few times I did have to do it. Oh my gosh, it was horrendous. And to not have to do that. But then the flip side is to live your life in the public eye. And that's a hard place for you and the family, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love your idea of saying thank you to people, though. I mean, I think that's just really sweet, but it definitely showed me who's got you in their mind. And it was those little messages that I used to love, of like, they didn't need a response. They were just little messages like, I'm thinking of you, or little gestures, and the little everyday things become big things, don't they? Which is just lovely. So then you've got Happy Me, Happy Me project. So how did that come about from all of this? And
so me mentioning that I was in kind of go mode, I am a person who needs to create not consume in times of difficulty. And that works for me. That doesn't work for everybody. Some people need to hide under their covers and just not speak to anybody. There's zero judgment on what you do to get you through grief, pain, loss, whatever. It doesn't matter. But for me, I like to do, and for my work is in self-development, and for me, the reason that helps is because it takes something rubbish, something that means no, like, it makes no sense to me that our people have died, right? That makes no sense. Why have they died? That doesn't fit in my plans. Why is Ross dead? That makes no sense. So in order to make sense of the nonsensical, it was taking my lessons and my learnings. And I had done self-development since I was a kid. And I had already, when Ross was diagnosed, I had kind of delved into that world of life coaching very organically. By the time Ross died, and I needed somewhere to put that. I needed somewhere that made it feel like there was something good that could come of this. And I was getting inundated with messages, as you can imagine, because of the press, because of the platform, all of that. And just because people are decent, right? People are generally good people. And they were messaging, and a lot of those messages were people who were just struggling, whether that was grief or whether that was it's hard being an adult. Like, they were struggling, and they were watching me and my story, and they were hearing me talk with how I talk, which is very blunt and very honest. And I know that's different to, not everybody is like that. So they were watching me and they were going, how are you doing that? What do I need to learn? Now, please believe me, I do not believe that I am the bloody oracle of anything. I don't think I know all of the answers, but what I do is share all of the stuff that I'm learning as I go along. And I'm in the trenches with everybody else. I get it, right? I'm living it and breathing it, and I was sharing stuff. But what I found was people were coming to me and I wanted to give them more. And, you know, when somebody's in their darkest depths, when they're struggling and they're coming to you for help, I can't just leave them. Like, that doesn't sit well with me. I want you to be okay. I want those that are watching this now, I want you guys to be all right. Like, I want you to feel, and I always coin it, I want you to feel more happy and less crappy. You know, we can't be happy all of the time, guys, but I'd like it if we could have more of it. And so when people were messaging me, I was like, I can't people yet. I'm not ready to people. So what I will do is, and you know, my entrepreneurial brain kicks in, I'll put a course together. It will be an online course. I can send it to people. I'll make it a really cheap course, you know, non-expensive, 30 quid course for my time. I put it together, videos, audios, some workbooks, and it was the basics of what I was doing to get me through stuff. It was the basics of self-development as I saw it. Put it out in the world with zero expectation. There was no fancy internet launch strategy or anything. It was no bells and whistles. It was just, I've done a thing. It's there if you want it. And over the months after Ross's death, it began to snowball. And I think the impact of it is because in self-development, I like to try and keep it simple. And I think it was the simplicity of it and the direct nature of how I talk about self-development that made people go, maybe I can try that, and that maybe will work for me. By the end of 2017, I took that course and I made it an in-person workshop. You know, we were doing in-person stuff a lot more back then. And I decided I would just go and start doing stuff and meeting people. And over the years after Ross died, 2018, 2019, I toured the UK doing these workshops and meeting real people. Some people had been through grief and were going through that story, but some people it was anxiety, it was, you know, struggling with social anxiety, or whatever it was. And so the Happy Me project really took on a life of its own over the last few years. And I can see Saffron Baker's on here as well. She's saying I was one of the first in-person workshop. You were one. You must have been at the first one. And it was brilliant to be there. And there was, again, even at that workshop, there was no pomp and ceremony. It's not me stood on a stage going, look at me, aren't I fancy, please take your pictures with me. It's me going, let's get in the nitty gritty and do some stuff. And I still do it. You know, obviously we've had a whole pandemic in between, but I have an event on the 26th of June. I'm doing my next in-person event. It's a restival. I've coined it a restival because we're going to do a whole day of self-development, but that's in Warwick. So if anybody's listening and want to get tickets, just have a look on my my bio in my Instagram. But I love doing that because I get to meet people in person, and I love that, you know, connection with people as well.
It's just amazing. You've got some lovely comments on here, Holly, of beautiful, and Orlando as well. I've just slightly lost it. Well said, Holly. Go on. And Orlando's also said, really lovely, when we were talking about life being hard. So true. You can see the best and worst of people at these times. Are so true.
Sure. And some people are scared of grief as well. You know, I really, since Ross's death, have let go of judgment of stuff. In fact, I did a post on my Instagram today about that, because I really realize, like, people don't know how to deal with it. We're not taught to deal with this. And certainly here in the UK and probably across the Western world, we are rubbish at dealing with grief. We don't know how to do it, and we feel uncomfortable about it. And I probably would have. I had not understood, I didn't understand this kind of experience. And now I feel, and I'm sure you guys watching, and I'm sure you do as well, Emma, I feel in a better place to kind of give more tangible tips to people who have people who are going through this, to be able to go, look, you got to talk to them. Like, don't ignore them and pretend it's not happening. I don't know what people think they can say that's going to make it worse. It's not going to make it worse. I can't fathom how you think you can make, my husband's dead. You can't make this worse. Just be there. Bring me food and do my washing. I'm not doing that stuff. So you can help by doing practical stuff. That's always my go-to to people if they want to know how to help other people. Just bring them food, bring them meals, do their shopping for them, take their washing, come and clean the house, leave them alone. Like, just someone saying, yeah, the worst's already happened. Yeah, what are you going to say? What do you think you'll say? I mean, there's just nothing. I'm not even listening to you in those early stages. I'm in a bubble. I've got no idea what you're talking about. So
no, and I get that as well on the small jobs. I really felt that. Someone's also said talking is the best outlet to make things so much better. I totally get that. But it was the small jobs. I'll never forget someone coming to clean the drains, and that was a job my husband used to do, and like, there was no way I was I didn't even know how to start. And to have someone just come, but like, no questions. It wasn't even like I was putting them out. It's like, I'm doing this. I actually want to do this for you. Well,
actually, that's a really important point. And that was a lesson that Ross taught me when Ross was going through radiotherapy. I've always been a very independent human being, and so was Ross. And when he was going through radiotherapy, you're there every day. And I remember Ross saying to me, we've got to let people help. And I was like, no, we'll do this. We had to go from Coventry to Birmingham every day. We've got kids. And he was like, no, let people help. And the let is important. Yeah. People want to help. And he was like, no, we'll schedule it so everyone feels part of it, because people are literally chomping at the bit, like at the edges, going, what can I do? How can I help? When your person has died, there's people on the edge and they're like, they don't know how to help. And if you go and get me some milk, they're desperate to. They're like, you're brilliant. I'll get the milk. I can do that. I can get the milk. Like, so give people jobs and don't feel, listen, let's be really real here. And I know I deal with more stuff with being silly and humor. That helps me. But let's be honest, when we are going through this grieving, this is the one time when we can really, really have people running about after us. So, and we don't get that very often. So may as well milk it. If we're going to have perks of something hideous that's happened, let's take that. You could do my washing. This is your time to shine, guys.
And you also do never forget it. I remember some of the school mums set up a babysitting circle for me, so I could go to the hospital and be at the hospice with my husband. And I didn't even, it was literally, one of them was the key person. They had a WhatsApp group all to themselves that I wasn't party to, so I didn't have to get involved in any of the niff-naff. And it would just be like, yeah, Kerry's turning up tonight, and what time do you want her? And it was just amazing.
It makes me want to cry.
I'll never forget it.
No, it makes me want to cry. People are so, and I really believe in people are good. Like, in those times you will see people show up and do the most beautiful things, and it is who we are. I know we see a lot of negative stuff in the media and stuff like that, and there's often a focus on that, but you, as we will know, you will see the good in people. Well, yes, okay, there'll be people that disappear and they don't deal with it well, but I let go of judgment on that. They've got their own stuff going on. Maybe they don't get it. Maybe they're too scared. Maybe they don't know how to deal with it. But there will be some people that really shine, and you don't forget it, because there's those nuggets that people give you in those moments that pull you through. that give you hope. And actually, you know, when I talked about grief in those initial stages, I had the foresight and the understanding that me talking about it in the way that I talk about it, me sharing my story, I knew it would help other people. Like, I knew, because when I was sat in the hospice and I'm, you know, looking on Pinterest, because that's what I was doing, it like quotes grief stuff. I mean, it's lovely, isn't it? And I'm like, what, how do people die? Doing all the hideous Google searches that we do, you know, and I'm sat there going like, what's my life going to look like? You go on Google, and what you're going to see is, your life's over, pal. Like, that's what it looked like. Your life's over. Fetch the black veil. You're done and dusted. I was 32 with 2 amazing kids and a man who, yes, was dying, but his ethos in life was still living on. And I'm like, no, we're not giving up. We're not, that's not happening. And I knew I didn't want that. And I knew that there was other people out there that might take something from what I was talking about and might see something, might see some hope. And that's what we need more than anything in those times. We need something to grab onto. And I thought, well, if I talk about it, it might give somebody else just some thought, and that's it. You know, that's absolutely it. I see somebody's comment there. What was that one? Yeah, and then your Facebook ads get really crappy too. Yeah, they do. They absolutely do. Start sending you stuff that's going to make you more sad. It's rude, if anything.
Yeah, it's so true. And then your book. So how did you find time to write it? How did it come about? And what's your book all about?
Well, I'm just going to hold it up because it's here. Guys, so I'm super excited because I only got it like the last week. I mean, it's not out proper, but you can pre-order it now. It's called The Happy Me Project. Keep it simple, guys, a no-nonsense guide to self-development. Look how pretty it looks, though. Look how shiny it is. I'm not even going to pretend that I'm not really excited by this. Right, so I wrote a book. When we were doing the lockdown life, I was going live a lot on social media, and I was talking to people, human beings, back and forth, and I'm getting to know my people that follow me on here, people in the Happy Me Project free Facebook group, and I was getting to know people's stuff. And every day I was going live, and again, it does help me. I get a help high from that. Like, I feel good because I help other people. It's a full circle, right? This is not completely selfless, right? It's that, I mean, it's a good way of being selfish, but you know, it's not complete. I like it as well. And so I was coming up with solutions, and I'm thinking, right, and I was learning so much, even more than I'd done before, because it was real time. Every day I'm going live, and I've got Sarah saying to me, right, I really struggle with I'm bored, or I struggle with judgment, or I struggle to say no, I'm struggle with boundaries. And I'm like, right, okay, what's the science on this? And I'm doing all this research, and I'm scribbling it down on little post-it notes in my office before I go on. I'm like Danger Mouse. Like, I rarely prepare for anything that I've got to do until the last minute. And then I'm like, oh, I need to do it. Like, the adrenaline kicks in, and then I'm ready to go. So I would do it last minute, but the excitement of it. And I had this pile of notes, and I knew I was going to write a book, and I talked about it on social media. I put it on Instagram, and I said, I'm writing a book, right? I'm putting a proposal together. That's what you have to do for these kind of books. And it just so happened that there was an editor following me on Instagram, and her name is Holly, right? So it's a very excellent name. So I'm like, I do get a lot of messages on social media, but I saw her name, probably stood out to me because she was called Holly. And I noticed we'd previously had some like conversation. I'd helped her with something or other. It wasn't anything like major. I'd just made a comment to something. Which, you know, it's always good to be good, because it wasn't her work account or anything. And then she sent me a message, and she was like, oh, I see that you want to write a book. Do you want to send something to me? I'm an editor at Bloomsbury Publishing. Now, for those that don't know, Bloomsbury Publishing are big boys in the publishing industry, right? They're big. And even I knew that. And I was like, I think I threw my phone a bit, like, like, you know, like when something good happens, but you're kind of scared as well, because you're like, oh God, that's different level. And then I did the Google search, because I was like, is this Bloomsbury, or is this like Bloomsbury? Like, is this really the actual Bloom, or is this? So I'm researching, I realize it is actually Bloomsbury Publishing. So obviously I got to work. I put the proposal together. This is the end of 2019. I'm doing all the work. They're asking me to send some like sample chapters. This is what you do. And then we go into a pandemic, which is rude of the world to go into a pandemic when I'm trying to get a book out. And, you know, it's all in the publishing world. It was like all uncertain, like it was everywhere else. And they were like, we're just going to wait. We don't know what's happening. We've got authors waiting. And you know what? I just went, I'm letting go of the outcome. I'm going to see what happens. I know I'm going to write a book. I've already started it. The book's happening. And I had zero worry in my mind. And this is really important when you set goals. Still take action, but don't stress about it, because when you stress about it, what you're telling your subconscious is, I don't really think I can get this. And I did know I could get a book out. I knew I could do it on my own if I wanted, but I did want a publishing company. Then in the middle of the pandemic, I get an email after a back and forth of emails with this editor. And I got an email that just said offer on it. And I nearly fell off my chair, guys. I was so excited. And so we've been working at 2 years it's taken to get it to this point, which feels weirdly like 2 seconds ago and ages ago because of pandemic life. And now here we are, 9th of June, it is out. My baby I've birthed into the world. It's 60 chapters. Don't be scared. Each one is only 4 pages with tangible stuff to do at the end of it. So stuff to try, and it is not allowed to be something that you stick on your shelf and don't actually do the stuff. You've got to try the stuff as well. Otherwise it becomes, as one of my clients calls, shelf help. It's not shelf help, which makes me laugh every time. It's not shelf help. You know when we feel all smug because we've got books and we're like, look at me with my books. No, this is the book. Right? I want you to finger the book. I want you to highlight it. I want you to write notes in it. I want you to have it in your handbag or have it in the pocket of your car and read it on the toilet. Take those, you know, those moments, the dead moments in your day when you're just scrolling, right? So just one of those, choose one to read a chapter and then try stuff out. It's, you know, I don't overcomplicate stuff. I like things to be dead simple, and that's what this book is. And my oldest daughter has been reading it. She's 11. And even she was like, Mum, it's really good. She was like, it really like sounds like you're talking, which does make me laugh as well. Because even my editor's like, I can hear you I can hear your Geordie accent when you're writing it, like reading it, which makes me laugh. I have done an audio book as well, but that's not out yet. So, but that will be available. If anyone can stomach my Geordie dulcet tones, there is.
Love it. They're gonna love it. They're gonna absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Someone's saying, would you do an autobiography? I'm quite mindful of the time. But...
I know. We're really it's not an autobiography. However, there's loads of my story in this. So it's got lots of things in there. So I let my 11-year-old daughter read this, totally grassing myself up in many, many ways. I let my dad read it. My dad was one of my early readers. And he said, my dad's really good. He's very good at writing. And he said, well, he said, on the one hand, as a, you know, just as a read, like to read it, it's excellent. It's really well written. You should be so proud of yourself. He said, as a dad, it was really hard to read. It was hard because I was party to some of the things that you're talking about, and I didn't know, I didn't understand, and I didn't see some of the stuff that you did. So there is some big shares in there. There's a lot of autobiographical stuff in there. Yeah, so it's kind of both. So it's not just plain stuff, it's me sharing some stuff, probably sharing too much because that's the nature of my personality, but we've done it now. So I want to see everybody that's on here with the book. Hi everybody, I can see some familiar faces, Emma and Eddie I can see, and loads of people there. Yeah, I want to see you guys with it. I will literally do a happy day. I might weigh a bit with that much excitement when I see people with the book. And if you, one thing as well, I haven't put this out in the world yet, but I'm sharing it with you guys first. If you get this book in the month of June, I'm also giving you 1 month. There's no photos in it. No, I'm so sorry. There's actually no photos. 1 month free in my membership as well. And the way that I've done it, I'm trying to be really clever, but the code that you will need for that is in one of these pages. It's a word in these pages. It's on page 58. At the end, you'll get all the instructions. But I thought that was a nice way. Then people can get the book, they can get the word, and they can put it in and get a free month in the membership as well.
Well, people are saying can't wait, and I have to say I've pre-ordered mine already, so I hope I'll get mine in the right month. Yay!
You will. Amazing. Love it.
That's so cool. And I loved your reel when you opened it. I really want people to go onto your account and watch that reel when you opened it with your kids. That was so cute.
Excited. I was so excited. And they took it to school and they said we're going to flex at school. I'm not cool enough to pull off saying flex, but my kids can.
That's very cool. And actually, talking about your children, so, you know, 5 years down the line, how are Brooke and Texas actually doing? Because that's a really tricky one. Like, we want
Yeah.
our kids, like you were saying about your dad, about you know, you now feel that about your kids, don't you? And
I think as most parents of grieving children will know, it's an ongoing process. And it made me laugh the other day because I met a woman. We went to a local library and you get chatting to people, and it came up because it does, you know, it comes up. And the woman said to me, and it was not in any way meant in a horrible way, but it really sort of made me think afterwards how people see things when they've not experienced it. And she said, oh, they're doing great though. And I thought, how do you know? Like, you've met him for about 2 minutes. That, you know, just like us as adults, it comes, it goes. It's moments. It's for children. I think the hardest thing is that, and for us as parents watching this, it's the milestones when their dad should be there, or if it's, you know, if it's their mum. That's the hardest points. You know, when the girls learned to ride their bikes, that hurt my heart because Ross should have been there. Ross would have done that. Ross would have done that. Like, that just what he would have. I know he would have. And there's those moments, and there's those moments when the girls have, you know, big wins in their life and their dad's not there, and that's hard. And, you know, certainly the pandemic probably for a lot of people brought up a lot more grief. We had to sit with our grief again. And we're now in a world that he wasn't part of, and that's weird, isn't it? I think it's hard. I remember somebody saying, it was actually somebody from Way who said to me in the early stages when it was 2017, she said going into 2018 will be hard because it's a year they weren't in. And I was like, oh God, like it's those moments. It's not necessarily the birthdays. It was Ross's birthday last week. It's not necessarily those or Christmases, because you prepare yourself for those. People are around for those. As we know, those of you that are listening will know, it's the moments where you stumble on their handwriting on something, or you find something you haven't seen for a while, or you go somewhere that you haven't been for a while. And it's those moments. They're the moments that people don't see. And I try to share those moments with my kids. If I've had a tough day and I'm like, I had a cry today, like I just felt sad today, I just missed him, and I'll say that to them because I want them to know it's okay. I want them to know it's okay to be sad. Like, it's okay to be angry. It's okay. And we tried as much as possible. We definitely we haven't always got it right, guys. It's a messy, messy process being a parent of grieving children while you're also grieving. It's a messy process, and we have definitely, you know, we've stuck together as a little, you know, in our trio, we've stuck together and we've tried to be as honest as possible. And I really think that's all you can do. And there's going to be those of you that are in the thick of it right now and hearing the words, I hate you, I wish you were dead, and all of the things that you hear as the other parent. And we've just got to learn to deal with those big emotions. It's really tough, and we will not always get it right, but you've got to let go of judgment. And it was actually Jeff Brazier, who was the partner of Jade Goody, who told me that early doors, and I was glad he did. He spoke to me when Ross was in the hospice and talked to me about the kids, and I was very keen to speak to him about how he had dealt with it when Jade died. And he was very open and really, really supportive and lovely. And one of the things he said to me was, you know, you've got to be ready for that down the line, because when kids are dealing with big emotions, they're going to say all kinds of stuff. And it doesn't mean they mean that stuff. And you really need to know that. It's just them going, I'm hurting inside. You know, us adults, we deal with it in whatever other way. Some people drink, some people run, some people, you know, we deal with it. And kids have got limited ways in which they can deal with it. And we are their safe space. And so that has been hard, and it still continues to be. But my children are absolutely amazing. Like, they are amazing people. And I know that they will be resilient and empathetic and more understanding because of all of the pain and trauma they've experienced.
So true. It's so true. So much of what you said resonates with me, that going all the way back to the comment in the library where your kids are doing fine. I mean, my kids have had moments where they come home from school and collapsed on me like, Mummy, no one knows that inside I've been crying, but on the outside I'm fine. We are their safe space. But the other thing that really came to me when you were talking, that I've never really shared in a way before, but is about how children sometimes project. So they come to us and go, you know, I don't know, I'm so disappointed in you and blah, 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 blah. But actually they're disappointed with themselves. And actually we're just being the mirror that they're holding up. And that can be horrible, because it's just like a
intolerant of abuse, but
Yeah.
actually they just
And you're
want
grieving,
compassion.
and that's the thing as well. Like you're, and someone, Simon saying, my 3-year-old said to me today, before Mummy died, we didn't want her to die. And kids will say stuff that will literally cut to the bone of you. Like I remember, so this is my, and I do still wear my wedding ring, and not because I'm like stuck in not wanting to ever have another relationship. To me, it's like a tattoo. It doesn't, I don't see it. And if somebody felt uncomfortable with that, then they're not the right person in my mind. But there's 3 diamonds on my wedding ring, and I've always sort of said there was actually no reason for it, but I always said that it's me, you, it's to the girls, it's you Texas, it's you Brooke, and it's Dad in the middle. And when Ross died, Brooke said to me, do you need to take that diamond out now? And I was like like, you know, the kids will just cut through it. And you know, sometimes children need to relive it as well. Like even now, certainly my oldest will want to ask me questions about Ross's death and go over that again, and that's really tough. Like that's you know, when you're going through that as well, like you have to be kind to yourself to understand that sometimes that's just really, really hard. On your best day, you'll answer the questions and it'll be fine. On your worst day, you'll cry your eyes out, and it's part of it. And anyone that's listening and going through a similar thing, or you know, has gone through that, like you'll either understand, or it will come and you will get that, and you will, hopefully this will be a positive message, because there's always good and bad. And you know, your children are also watching you deal with it, and mirroring stuff as well, and modeling what you're modeling for them. And that doesn't mean you always get it right, so don't put pressure on yourself, because I'm a perfectly flawed human being, and I'm doing my best, and I'm still all right, and so are you guys. So we just have to keep doing our best for them and trying to show up and giving space for talking. That's always been one thing I've done, whether that's getting notebooks. So we had notebooks from the beginning where it was their get it out book, and I would say to them, write anything you want in there. Anything you want. And listen, adults do the same, right? You have a get it out book, write anything you want. And I said to them, you can write swear words in there, you can write the worst things in the world. I will never look at that unless you ask me to. Now, when we first did that, the kids were really young, so they would ask me to. But I would also say, you know, not everyone's a writer. I would say, do you want to draw pictures, or do you you know, do you want to do a video? Because they would watch me do videos. Do you want to do a video? Do you want to do a voice note? We had a box in our front room for a time which just said like questions. So if they didn't want to ask me a question, they felt embarrassed or uncomfortable or thought they might upset me, they could put it in that box. There's lots of ways, but I wanted them to get it out. And I used to let them swear. So I used to let them get angry and they'd punch their pillows, and in their own bedroom, there was boundaries. It was like, I'd say to them, if you go outside and you swear, there's consequences. Like you go to school and you swear, there's going to be consequences. But in here, there's a safe space to do that. And I'm quite good at writing quick poetry, right? I'm good at rhyming stuff. And so they knew that. And there's a little money spider on me here. I'm some money. It's the book. I'm putting it on the book, guys. I'm putting it on the book. So superstitious there, rather. So yeah, I would say to them, right, I'll write a poem. This is when they were sad and in the thick of it, right at the beginning. I write a poem. You can pick 2 swear words that you want to go in the poem. Obviously, like they're little, so they're like, brilliant. Mum's letting us say something naughty. So it would be, right, what's the topic of it? Right, your topic is you've had a sad day at school today, and your swear words are, and then I would make up a funny poem, and it would help to dissipate some of the feelings, but it wouldn't be not acknowledging it. Like I can't say to my kids, and I won't swear on here because it might be, you know, people that have got kids in the background, but you can't say to children who've been through big loss, oh, it's not really great, is it? Like you can't talk to them in that way. They're just like you. They know it's, you know, the swear words, right? They know what it is. And I remember my youngest was at school once, and she said it to like one of the teachers who wasn't her normal teacher. She said, my dad's died. Dad was mentioned, and the teacher, and this was only a year after he died, the teacher went, oh, that's not very nice. And then she told me this, and I was like, not very nice. I was like, not very nice is when you drop your ice cream. Oh, that's sad. That's not very nice. Like, it's not the same. What is your dad dying is effing F, you know, it's all of the stuff, right? It's that. And so I try to be as honest as possible with my kids, and my kids know everything. Like I don't sugarcoat stuff with my children. They've lived too big stuff to do that with them.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I've still got questions left, Holly. I could talk to you all night. We cannot go over an hour.
No, we've got to stick in, otherwise we lose it, guys.
Yeah. I'm just going to quickly whizzle through some of these. So someone said that worries me as someone very poorly. The milestones, you're amazing. That was from Emma. My 3-year-old said to me today, before Mummy died, we didn't want her to die. Oh, just love it, love it, love it, love it. They're all just so gorgeous. So, do you know what the future holds for you? Any more writing projects? Any advice for people who've been widowed at a young age? Maybe in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I've got like no time, so I'm going to speed it up. Right. Yes, I'd love to do another book, but we've got to sell this book first. So go on Happy Me Project. Let me know what you think. I want to know what you think. I want a TV show. Happy Me TV will happen. We'll talk about self-development. We'll debunk all of the stuff. We'll talk honestly. We won't sugarcoat it, and that will happen. That I haven't talked to anybody, but I've put it out in the world with you guys so that I can make it happen, just like I did the book. My advice is really and truly lean into what feels good to you. You know you better than anybody else. I can sit here and talk about, Emma can talk about it. It means absolutely nothing, because you are a completely individual human being, and nobody's gonna walk you through it. You have to walk yourself through it, but you have to do it in your own space, your own time, and that is absolute. And you're asking what shops are available: Amazon, Waterstones, WH Smith, all of the normal ones, and there's a link in my bio as well to go.
And someone also said audiobook or Kindle.
Well, it will be on audio. It's not out yet on there to get, but it will be. You can get it on Kindle. You can get it obviously in the physical copy as well. So they will be all available. So yeah, advice would be learn about yourself. This is why self-development. It's called the Happy Me Project, Carjack. The Happy Me Project by Holly Matthews. Lean into what you need and turn down the noise of what everybody else thinks you should need, and chuck the shoulds in the bin, because when you are going through big grief, you just need to find a route through it. And for some people, that's going to be climbing a mountain. For some people, that's going to be hiding for a year. For some people, that's going to be a whole transformation physically. Some people, it's going to be just whatever. There are so many different ways of dealing with it. And you just have to find what feels good to you and let go of judgment of yourself. You are perfectly within your right to lose it. You are perfectly within your right to deal with it bit by bit. And there's no judgment. And if anybody does judge you, you can just lock them off for a bit, because protect your space like nothing else. Put in boundaries to protect your space. Please be kind to yourself. It's hard. It is hard to walk yourself. You need to be your own advocate. You need to be your own best friend, and that is the best advice that I can give you. Please, I know we've got to finish up now, so any questions you have, come on over to my Instagram, ask the questions, and I'm on there loads, so you will be able to, what kind of section? It's self-development, the book is under. If you search for the Happy Me Project, Holly Matthews, or you type me into the internet, you will find me. Otherwise, the internet is broken and you should phone somebody. I'll be there. But if you go onto my Instagram now, you will find, if you click on the link, you'll find everything in there. But please feel free to come from here and ask me questions. I'm an open book. If I can answer the questions, I will. And that's my advice.
Oh, Holly, you've been absolutely amazing. Thank you for sharing your story. It's yet another tough one, and I totally and utterly empathise. I think that we are all unique. Grief is a 5-letter word, but it is so much more than a 5-letter word, and it is totally unique for all of us. So Holly's book, The Happy Me Project, is due to be published on the 9th of June. You can go to Amazon or any of those places and pre-order it, as I have. And so get in there and do that. And then obviously these Tuesdays are every Tuesday. And so next week at 8 p.m, we have got Way member, scientific writer and blogger Suzanne, and she's going to be hosted by Sam again. So he'll be back again next week. You can catch up with this conversation and with all the previous 25 Tuesdays on the Way's Instagram Live. And if you've only just kind of dropped in now, Holly's whole thing, as long as we finish up in the next couple of minutes, should be all there. And I'm Emma, and it has been an absolute pleasure, Holly. It's been such a delight. I've really enjoyed chatting to you, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much to everybody. I will speak to you all very soon.
Oh, take care. You're a superstar. Thank you, lovely. Bye.